Opinions are like assholes. Everyone has them, and I have them very strongly, probably a lot stronger than a lot of people out there. This is Master Mewtwo, and I'm coming to you with another episode of my Deep Thought, another podcast, I'll say, of my Deep Thoughts video. I've just been, on Facebook and stuff, and there was something that really hit me hard was a lot of fear has carried over from 9/11, and I find that really bad. A lot of people have a problem with the hijab and the burqa in particular, and I read through Facebook and all these news articles, most recent one being, oh my god, we can't perform this La Traviata, which is an opera in Paris, because there's a woman with a hijab on, and she had to be removed from the theater before the cast performed. This is actually being held up by, quote-unquote, the European Court of Human Rights. That is insulting, because this is a religious choice that they have to make. They either have to wear the burqa, which is the head wrapping, or the full hijab, which is the face veil. What is so wrong with that? I do understand that it's a hard thing to try to identify in terms of identity, but it's a religious obligation to them. It's a way of preserving virginity in the eyes of the Islamic faith, and I have no problem with that personally. For some reason, people in Europe do. Another thing, I'm going to call out some tubers, but I won't call them out by name. So there was a picture posted, and you can tell this kid's a kid because he has a toy gun. But the tweet was, "When I find out one of my friends is gay," and he puts the toy gun in his mouth. I tweeted back, "That's not funny. That's not funny at all." And it isn't. It's like, why would you kill yourself over a friend of yours that's gay? That's good. That's a lifestyle choice that takes a lot of time and a lot of courage to come out to say. And I said, that's not funny. And then I get replied, if you were in the call, you would find that very funny. That's still not funny, though. At all. So I tweeted back and flat out said, you guys are homophobes. And then he replies, oh, you're that little faggot. And this is basically quoting it. You're that little faggot who's desperate to become popular. Are you freaking kidding me? I call you homophobes and then you call me a faggot? Okay, I'll let you call me a faggot, because I'm a bundle of sticks that holds together a lot stronger than you could ever get. And on that faggot, you burn a lot of good wood, because a faggot's literally defined in the dictionary. A faggot is not someone who's gay. That has just come out of the woodwork. No pun intended. A faggot is a bundle of sticks used as a fire bundle, and that's a good thing. That was key during the winter. That would help keep people warm. So this it's just why this isn't going to be an opinion piece. Forget that. This is going to be about people who are closed-minded, who are either afraid of something they don't understand or afraid of something without logical explanation. Muslims are good people, or nice people, overall. I've had the pleasure of knowing a few Muslims, and they're really nice people. And then I also know a lot of gay people too, and they're some of the nicest people too, because they are a lot more liberated because of the fact they made a conscious choice, and they're happy about that. Gay meant happy once upon a time, back in the good old days, and now gay is this slur it went from some that was talked about pure happiness to a slur to represent an entire group of people that isn't a slur anymore. And I don't get why people choose to. I understand it's still embedded in the psyche, and it's going to take a while to work out of the vocabulary as a derogatory form of it, but still, it's wrong to treat things like I'm not going to say I'm a good person. Like, for God's sake, I still say things are gay when I shouldn't be saying it, but it's embedded in my head that it still is referred to as a derogatory thing. If something is gay, it's usually bad instead of referring to the group of people. Or it does refer to the group of people in an offhand way that's supposed to be derogatory and making fun. But it's still wrong. It doesn't excuse that. And you people who are homophobic and choose to make all these slurs and freaking call people out, and even still all these freaking slurs against Islamics and all the Muslims, and trying to ban their religious necessity, it's wrong. And it's funny, I read a comment and it was made by a Muslim woman. It's funny how their religion forces them to wear this, and they live in a government that's forcing them not to wear it. That's a hypocritical thing. And personally, I'm one of those who will also blame the Judeo-Christian build of a lot of law systems that says, okay, if you're different, you're wrong. And I find that it's more in the Catholic countries that they crucify, no pun intended, they crucify these different groups for their different dress, for their different belief system, for all this and that. It makes me question why I even still believe in any form of Christianity or Catholicism or anything like this. Because of the simple fact of the matter that people are discriminated against, and there is no inner circle that will try to break it. Because there's still this debate over gays getting married. Like, they can get married, but guess what? They don't see. I even brought this up with a friend of mine when I was walking around with them. There is a difference between matrimony and marriage. Matrimony is the sacrament of getting hitched, basically. It's regarded as a sacrament. Marriage is getting married. Matrimony is getting married within the confines of religion and a church. I'm okay with gays entering the bonds of matrimony because it's still an unconditional love between two people. Yes, I understand the definition is a man and a woman, and it's going to be like that for a long time until churches finally let it go. Because every religion other than Christianity, I think also Muslims, and I think Jews are okay with gay people. I'm not 100% sure. Of course, I'll have people commenting, "You're wrong, you're a freaking horrible person." I don't care. This is an opinion. This is going to be an opinion piece either way, but it's going to be about all your freaking ignorance. And there are a lot of ignorant people out there, and those of you who try to defend the choices of ignorant people prove themselves ignorant. And I don't care who you are. You are still ignorant if you're going to defend ignorant choices made by an ignorant populace who follow an ignorant government. This is why governments who say, we're going to support gay people, we're going to support gay human rights, we're going to support these religious rights of people so they can still wear their coverings. Because Canada came up with something which is brilliant. And it has to do with the hijab and the burqa. Muslim women cannot take off their burqa or hijab in front of a man until marriage, which is a religious thing. That's fine. Or if it's within the family, a father can see his daughter without the hijab on. But when she enters adulthood, the buck stops there. But in Canada, they've decided, okay, we're going to have female security officers. So like when they're doing customs or a security in an airport, for example, because let's face it, security's gone up because of 9/11. A female security officer has the right, legally, not religiously, but legally, has the right to take a female aside to properly ID them, facially and all that kind of stuff. That's how you do it. That conforms to the religion. That allows the religion to still hold credence in not only in the person who's following that religion, but also to the law body, the governing body that understands the needs of that particular faith. Why don't people do that? Like, honestly, instead of banning things, why don't you try to not so much conform, but compromise? This isn't World War II. It's not like compromise for appeasement, which allowed Hitler to get away with all these atrocities. This is compromise to recognize like a lot of people saying, oh, equality is possible. Well, if equality is possible, you can compromise to people with this religious requirement by letting a woman inspect a woman. And that is what the religion allows, a woman to inspect a woman. That's one thing. I already said my piece about gay people, about homosexuals, because homosexuals are still very functional parts of society, and yet all these people speak out against it still, and you have the WBC that I still believe they need to get nuked. I don't care how many people are in that city where that church is. You drop a nuke and you take it out, you're like basically wiping out Raccoon City of zombies. You are taking out a massive hub of homophobia right there. And if the KKK, if the freaking Ku Klux Klan is going to man up and stand guard while a soldier has the procession down the city street, and you have the WBC trying to stand out and try to do this, you're going to hell because you're probably gay, and this government supports homosexuality. They'll agree with me to drop a freaking nuke on these homophobic bastards because of the fact that these people are detrimental not only to their faith, to their religion, to people around them, but they're also detrimental to your country, your city, your whole nation, the whole world. And I don't care how many of you say, oh, well, they're just doing what they believe in. I'm doing what I believe in and saying these people need to just be wiped clean from the slate. Just like all these freaking laws banning Muslim headdresses from women. I would say I am a feminist, but I believe in equity more than equality, because we know that there will just never be things that are completely equal to a society. Women will never be equal to men, just as men will never be equal to women. Women will have higher traits over men, men will have higher traits over women. I do understand that there is a need for better equality, or closer to equality, in a job market, like especially in office settings, because women are just as successful and can be more successful. But along that same tangent, along that same parallel, which are two totally different terms, a tangent and a parallel, there still needs to be an understanding that equality cannot exist without giving up something of yours. Like a lot of people say, oh yeah, there will be equality, men just have to be more feminine, or women will have to be a lot more masculine or aggressive, which are basically men have to be a little bit more effeminate, so they have to sacrifice some of that aggression almost, or that assertiveness, and women need to be more aggressive and put themselves more out there, which is a more masculine trait, losing some feminine traits. It's a weird thing, and I won't get into that because that's just a rant. But this is all about ignorance of the truth, ignorance of facts, ignorance of a people, ignorance of because of what the news is telling you, ignorance of what you believe in blindly. Blind faith is all well and good, but informed faith is usually a stronger tool in your life, because if you have that basis of information saying, okay, this happened so let's go by the Bible, for example. This happened in the past. Science and religion go hand in hand. So using scientific fact combined with religious possibility, for example, the Big Bang Theory, I believe that someone had to flip the switch in order for it to start. And it's a higher power of some form. And then there's believing in evolution versus creationism. I've had to argue for creationists. And I believe in evolution firmly. And I had to be the creationist argue. I had to be on the side of creationism. And I didn't enjoy it. And I basically said, well, creationists believe in evolution, but they call it creation because of the fact that these new traits are becoming inherent in other animals. So, for example, polar bears in the Arctic. They started out as brown bears because they migrated up into the Arctic before the Arctic became what it is. And all of a sudden, a new trait developed in the polar bear to be fattier, to be white-furred, have all these new features. The polar bear that had the white fur survived for longer and could hunt food and be camouflaged against the snowy, all the snow and all the ice, easier than the brown bear. The polar bears with white fur bred and continued that trait of white fur, black noses, black eyes, very large, very bulky, very fatty. And the brown bears died off that were living in the Arctic. So brown polar bears is an impossibility, but it is a recessive trait in polar bears now. You could find it. Which is why the white polar bear which was originally a recessive gene, continued. Creationists would argue God created that. He said, okay, snap of the fingers, polar bears have white fur. And they will continue to have white fur as they continue to breed, blah, blah, blah. That is where evolution and creationism can't link, because that is what happens. Something in the genetic structure says, okay, it's basically like flipping the switch for the Big Bang. Something in the genetic structure decided to mutate for white fur versus brown fur. A black nose versus a ruddy reddish nose. Black eyes versus brown eyes, thick fur, thick fat, all that stuff. So it's just sad to recognize and understand that all these things that are happening are because people can't let other things connect. They have to be right. They can't accept others, which is basically a key factor to why ignorance today still exists.